My roommate swiped something from my stall. What she didn't know is that these things are for ghosts. And when you steal from a ghost, you pay with your life. I'm a ghost trader. Just like it sounds, I do business with spirits. Every year during the Ghost Festival, the gates of the underworld swing open. That's when I set up shop to trade with the ghosts. As for why I can do this, it's because my family has been ghost traders for generations. And the requirements to become one are incredibly strict. First, the trade is passed down from mother to daughter, never to a son. Second, you must have a body of pure Een, born on the winter solstice of a Een year. If an ordinary person touches these goods meant for ghosts, they get sick and have bad luck at best. At worst, they die. Today is the day the gates of the underworld open. 11 o'clock at night. I made my way to the crossroads near the school. There are no stores here, only chemical plants, so almost no students ever pass through. Weeds as tall as a person grow on either side of the road, and there isn't a single streetlight. The silence was deathly. Even the chirping of insects and the barking of dogs had vanished. I reached the intersection and set down a bowl of rice. Then I lit a stick of incense and placed it in the center of the bowl. Though the wind was howling tonight, the smoke from the incense drifted straight up, undisturbed. I pressed my palms together and bowed toward the bowl. This is my first time doing business, so if I neglect any of my ghostly big brothers or sisters, please be patient with me. Next, I spread out a red cloth and arranged my products on top of it. I could feel the temperature around me drop significantly. Blurry, indistinct white figures began to swarm before my eyes, their pale, terrifying faces slowly coming into focus. One of them, a ghostly white hand, picked up a porcelain bowl from the ground. My heart leaped with joy, and I eagerly started my sales pitch. You have excellent taste, miss. This porcelain bowl is from the Ming Dynasty. I bet you're from that era, right? This bowl will definitely make you feel right at home. A series of sharp, eerie laughs echoed around me. Clearly, the ghostly lady was pleased. Just then, I heard the sound of laughter from a group of men and women nearby. A group of people was heading toward my stall. I recognized two of them immediately, my roommates, Jessica and Stacy. They were clinging to their boyfriend's arms, dressed in revealing, flashy outfits. Jessica walked right up to me and looked down with a sneer. Well, if it isn't our broke-ass roommate? This is hilarious. Are you that desperate for cash? Setting up a stall in the middle of the night. No wonder people say nerds are clueless. There isn't a soul out here. Or are you selling to ghosts? Jessica stuck out her foot and kicked the porcelain bowl the ghost had been admiring. The bowl wobbled and clinked. I mean, seriously, your taste is awful. What is this junk anyway? It all looks so grimy. They all burst out laughing. As soon as Jessica said that, my face went cold. The white figures around me started to flicker more intensely, and I heard several bone-chilling, cackling laughs. They were clearly not happy. No ghost likes having their taste questioned. Don't touch anything. This stuff isn't for you. I snapped. Jessica's face soured. She turned to her boyfriend with a pout. Honey, look at her. It's just a stupid bowl. Jessica's boyfriend is Kyle, the son of one of the school's trustees. They both use their family's wealth to bully and pick on other students. Kyle's voice was rough. How much for the bowl? We'll just buy it. What's with the attitude? It's just a broken old bowl. You're not treating it like some treasure, are you? I let out a cold laugh. I'm afraid you can afford it, but you won't live to use it. You. A vein pulsed on Kyle's forehead, his face flushing red. The next second, a nasty grin spread across his face. Before I could react, he snatched the bowl and smashed it on the ground. The bowl shattered into pieces, fragments flying everywhere. It's broken now. Let's see you sell it, Kyle said, looking at me with a provocative stare. My expression darkened completely. Kyle was incredibly pleased with himself. Seeing how angry I was, his laughter grew more and more wild. Don't look at me like that. All I did was break your crappy bowl. This thing doesn't even look like it's worth much. I'll give you $500. That's more than enough, right? Anyway, you poor people are just scum, the bugs of society. And money is the one thing I've got plenty of. He casually pulled $500 from his pocket and threw it in my face. A chilling wind blew past, scattering the bills. It was too dark for them to see the thick, nearly black blood that oozed from the shattered pieces of the bowl on the ground. My first thought was, he's a dead man. Chloe, your family's pretty poor, right? You'd better hurry and pick that up, Stacy sneered. $500 is probably your whole month's allowance, right? But she didn't know that a ghost had already drifted right next to her, its bloodshot eyes staring intently at her. Achoo. Stacy suddenly sneezed. Why do I feel so cold all of a sudden? Stacy mumbled to herself. But no one heard her. Seeing my blank expression, Jessica came up with another malicious idea. Her eyes darted around and landed on a few steamed buns on my stall. These buns actually smell pretty good. I'm a little hungry right now. Chloe, you wouldn't mind if I had one, would you? Those buns are already spoken for. You can't eat them, I said coldly. If a living person eats food meant for the dead, they will die. No exceptions. Why can't I eat them? I'll pay you, isn't that enough? Just a few stupid buns. I'll take them all. Jessica quickly snatched the buns and stuffed one into her mouth. I couldn't stop her in time. Delicious. This is so delicious. Jessica's eyes widened, her cheeks puffed out as she chewed furiously. Seeing her reaction, the others were stunned. Stacy, skeptical, picked up a bun and took a bite. Is it really that good? But soon, she too began devouring it as if she were eating the most exquisite delicacy. In a matter of moments, the four of them had eaten every last one of the 4 buns from my stall. But they didn't know that as they gobbled down the food, pale, ghostly faces were perched on their shoulders, glaring at them with absolute hatred. Jessica let out a satisfied burp. She licked the corner of her mouth, oblivious to the trickle of blood that seeped from between her teeth. Look at your gloomy face. You'd think I ate something expensive. Fine, the buns are what, $2 or $3 each. I'll give you $10 a pop. How about that? Jessica wiped her mouth and spoke to me mockingly. We ate 4 of them, so I'll Venmo you 40. A moment later, a transfer notification from Jessica popped up on my phone. But I calmly returned the money. Chloe, what's your problem? You think that's not enough? For a few crappy buns? Are they worth more than 40? Stacy said, looking annoyed. I do business with the dead. Now that you've eaten their food, that money isn't for me to collect. The price isn't money. It's your lives. You have 3 days. If you have any last words for your families, you should probably get on that. I gave them an eerie smile, staring straight at them. My stare made their skin crawl, and they all shivered at once. Who the hell are you cursing? Kyle had a short fuse. He raised his fist, ready to hit me. But the next second, a pale, ghostly hand shot out and grabbed his leg. He fell flat on his face. Honey! Jessica screamed. The jock landed with a bruised face and a bloody nose. He clutched his nose as 2 streams of blood trickled from between his fingers. I think something just grabbed my leg. Kyle's face had turned pale. If you wanted to apologize, you didn't have to go to such great lengths, I said slowly. You. Kyle was furious. Looks like we need to teach this little bitch a lesson today, said Stacy's boyfriend Alex, his voice dark. Get on your knees and apologize to us right now, and I might let you off the hook, Alex said with a sinister, cruel smile. I remained silent. If Kyle just liked to hit people, Alex's cruelty ran much deeper. I heard that once, after an argument, he chased someone down on his motorcycle and ran over their leg, breaking it completely. The person later died from their injuries, but Alex's family just spent some money and made the whole thing go away. Late at night, in a deserted place, 4 people stared at me with malice in their eyes. Chloe, you always act so high and mighty at school. If naked pictures of you were spread all over campus, do you think you could still act like this? Alex reached out to grab my clothes, but his hand froze in midair, completely stiff. The others saw something was wrong with Alex's face and asked him what was happening. Alex's face was pale. I think my hand is cramping up. I can't move it. I sneered. That wasn't a cramp. It was a few deathly gray hands, gripping him tightly. Forget it. Let's just go back. I don't know what's going on, but I'm getting colder and colder. Let's not waste our time with this freak, Jessica said, shivering as she wrapped her arms around herself. Goosebumps visibly broke out on her exposed skin. She didn't see the pale-faced ghost standing next to her, blowing one cold breath after another onto her neck. The others were also shivering from the cold. But Kyle and Alex still didn't seem satisfied. Before they left, they grabbed everything on my stall and stomped all over it. What they couldn't crush with their feet, they smashed. After their rampage, almost everything at my stall was destroyed. They laughed at me mockingly. then finally left. I watched their retreating backs with a blank expression. Why do I feel so heavy? I heard Stacy mutter. I feel so sore all over, too, Stacy's boyfriend complained. They couldn't see it, but I could. For ghosts were sitting on their backs, their pale arms wrapped tightly around their necks. I shook my head, coldly watching the four of them walk back towards the school, carrying their ghostly burdens. By now, the incense at the crossroads had burned out completely. This meant that trading hours were over. To all my ghostly brothers and sisters, I sincerely apologize for the poor service tonight. Next time, I promise I'll stock up. When you come back, everything will be 20% off. I quickly packed up the things on the ground, slung the bag over my shoulder, and headed back to the school. Our dorm doesn't have a curfew, so we can come back as late as we want. When I got back to the dorm, I found that someone had poured some foul-smelling, unknown liquid on my bed. The entire sheet was soaked, making it impossible to sleep on. My other roommate, Lily, came over cautiously. Chloe, I tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen. Just as I was about to sit down in my chair, Lily quickly grabbed me, stopping me. They put tacks on your seat, Lily whispered in my ear. Jessica poked her head down from the top bunk. Lily, mind your own business again, and I'll have the school cancel your financial aid. Lily's face turned pale, and she lowered her head. Chloe, doesn't that smell just like your own broke-ass stench? Jessica and Stacy burst into laughter. I silently changed my bedsheets, not wanting to argue with them. Why should I argue with two people who are about to die? But when I went to the bathroom, I realized they had gone too far. My toothbrush was covered in yellow stains and reeked of urine. It was obvious someone had used it to scrub the toilet. Not only that, but my face wash had been filled with superglue. Even my once white towel was now filthy and stank. I heard Jessica's voice from outside. Oops, sorry, was that your towel? I thought it was a rag. Yeah, it's your fault for buying such a cheap towel. We used it as a rag, Stacy added. I wasn't angry or annoyed. I walked out and gave them a slight smile. Are your shoulders getting heavier? More and more sore? Jessica and Stacy looked at each other, a flash of suspicion on their faces. How did you know? Jessica rubbed her shoulder, her expression turning ugly. The corners of my mouth turned up. The two ghosts they had brought back were now clinging to their necks, their pale, ashen faces almost touching theirs. But they couldn't see them, they only felt a heavy ache throughout their bodies. I already told you. You should have your families start preparing for your funerals. Jessica and Stacy's faces changed instantly, turning extremely nasty. The next second, a glass tumbler came flying at my face. If I hadn't dodged in time, my head would have been split open. Chloe, you've always been so dramatic. Do you really think you can scare me with that superstitious crap in this day and age? Jessica sneered. I shook my head helplessly. If you beg me sincerely, maybe I could go and plead your case with the powers that be. Beg you? Jessica laughed as if she'd heard the funniest thing in the world. Stacy snorted. In your dreams. Well then, I hope you both have a good night's sleep, I said with a smile. Normally, a person has 3 spiritual flames that keep ghosts at bay. For a ghost to possess a person, it must first blow out 2 of those flames. The last flame is on the forehead. Once the fire on the forehead is extinguished, the person can no longer live. So these ghosts wouldn't kill them immediately. Instead, they would slowly terrify them. Once Jessica and the others' life force weakened, the ghosts could blow out all 3 flames. Tonight would surely be an agonizing night for Jessica and Stacy. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, I heard Jessica scream. With her eyes closed, she was flailing her arms in the air, shouting, "It hurts, it hurts." Jessica's screams quickly woke everyone else up. Stacy turned on the light and rushed to ask her what was wrong. Jessica, drenched in sweat, opened her eyes and gasped for breath. I just felt someone grabbing my hair, pulling it over and over, really hard, like they were trying to rip my scalp off. After she spoke, she glanced at her pillow and then pointed at it in terror. There's really hair. Someone was really pulling my hair. Scattered across Jessica's pillow was a large clump of black hair. Some of it was still bloody, clearly torn out by the roots. Stacy's face filled with fear. Jessica, were you sleepwalking? There's no one else in the dorm. I yawned, enjoying the show. I dreamed about a terrifying woman. She was leaning over my bed, pulling my hair again and again. I couldn't see her face, but I could feel this overwhelming terror. She said I took something of hers, so she'd take my hair as payment, Jessica said, trembling. Suddenly, as if she remembered something, she shot up. Chloe, did you do something to me? Jessica pointed at me, her face full of hatred. You told me to have a good dream right before I went to sleep. You must have done something. Jessica lunged at me like a madwoman, but I dodged her easily. Jessica, I was just saying something nice. Should I have wished you a nightmare instead? Jessica's face was a mask of fury. Stacy grabbed Jessica's arm. Jessica, just go back to sleep. You just had a nightmare. You probably pulled the hair out yourself. Stacy pointed to Jessica's hand. There were some strands of hair tangled in her fingers. Yes, I must have done it myself. It must be, Jessica said, her face pale. But she didn't see the ghost perched on her back, grabbing her hair and stuffing it into its mouth. Later that night, I was woken from a deep sleep by a chewing sound. It was a slow, deliberate chewing, as if someone were taking small bites of something. I opened my eyes and saw a dark figure hunched over Stacy. It hurts so much. Stacy's face was contorted in her sleep, and she was covered in sweat, clearly in great pain. I peeked my head out slightly, and when I saw what was happening, I gasped. A ghost was crouched at the foot of Stacy's bed, gnawing on her left leg. Stacy's leg was already a bloody mess, but she couldn't wake up, because another male ghost was sitting by her head, pressing its hands firmly over her eyes. The two ghosts seemed to notice I was watching them. They turned their heads with excruciating slowness, their mouths splitting into grins that reached their ears. I quickly pulled my head back. To be honest, even I was a little shaken by the sight. But I had warned Jessica and the others not to touch my things. They were reaping what they had sown. The next morning, the look on Jessica and Stacy's faces nearly gave Lily a heart attack. Lily's eyes widened. Why do you two look so awful? I could see a dark aura shrouding Jessica and Stacy's faces. It was clear they didn't have long to live. Stacy clutched her left leg and said weakly, I don't know what happened last night, but my leg is killing me now. Lily covered her mouth in horror. Stacy, how is your left leg so much thinner than your right? Stacy's left leg could only be described as skin and bones. The entire leg was so shriveled it looked like nothing but bone was left. Stacy let out a piercing scream. My leg. What's happening? I looked at her calmly and said, last night, a ghost ate the flesh from your leg. That's why it looks like that. You ate their food, so naturally, you have to pay for it with something else. Stacy's lips trembled, her face deathly pale as she looked at me with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Jessica also let out a scream. She ran to the mirror and burst into tears. My hair. The hair on top of my head is gone. A patch of hair in the center of Jessica's head had completely vanished, making her look both ridiculous and pitiful. You have to understand, Jessica cared more about her hair than anything else. She spent an hour every day just on hair care. It was only then that they began to believe what I had been saying. After all, a person doesn't just change like this overnight. Jessica walked up to me and said, trembling, Chloe, is what you're saying really true? The stuff at your stall last night, was it really for ghosts? When I nodded, Jessica glared at me with fury. You were trying to hurt us all along, weren't you? If it was for ghosts, why didn't you stop us? Stacy was even more furious. She lunged forward to hit me, but before she could get close, her left leg gave out, and she collapsed to her knees on the floor. I said with a blank expression, first, I specifically chose a deserted place to set up my stall last night. Second, I told you not to touch or eat anything. This is just the first day. The spiritual flames protecting you haven't been completely extinguished yet. If you beg me nicely, I might still be able to save you. Jessica bit her lip and shot me a glare. You want me to beg you? Dream on. So what if I've run into some ghosts? My dad is a businessman, he knows plenty of powerful people. Stacy, we don't need to beg her. My dad will take care of this, Jessica said, still as arrogant as ever. Without another glance at me, they walked out of the dorm. Only Lily and I were left in the room. Lily asked me cautiously, Chloe, can they really get rid of those ghosts? I shrugged my shoulders and said nonchalantly, who knows? I never expected that as soon as Lily and I got to our classroom, we'd see a huge, chaotic crowd gathered outside. Everyone had a look of pure terror on their face. I spotted Jessica in the crowd. She was slumped on the ground, dry heaving repeatedly. Even from a distance, I could smell the overwhelming stench of blood coming from the classroom. I saw Kyle sitting at his desk. Except his head was gone. The area around his seat was covered in blood. This is just horrible. How did the fans suddenly fall? Yeah, the school just replaced all these fans this year. Nothing like this has ever happened. I'd say it's karma. I heard he forced himself on a girl from off campus, and she ended up jumping off a building. His dad just paid to make the whole thing go away. The crowd was buzzing with gossip. Lily grabbed my arm in panic. The video is already all over the school's group chat. I opened the group chat, and sure enough, there was a video of the incident with Kyle. Others couldn't see it, but I saw it crystal clear. A ghost was sitting on the spinning fan, staring down at Kyle with venomous hatred. It tugged at the fan again and again, until it finally ripped the fan from the ceiling. The next moment, blood splattered everywhere. Kyle's head rolled onto the floor, his eyes wide open in shock. I frowned. Normally, the ghosts shouldn't have been able to kill them until the third day. But this was only the second day. I took a closer look at the ghost in the video and realized it wasn't one of the ones I saw last night. This was a female ghost with a completely unfamiliar face. I suddenly remembered that Kyle had indirectly caused a girl's death. This female ghost had probably been near him all along, but his life force was too strong, so she couldn't get close. Last night, the ghosts from my stall latched onto him, greatly weakening his spiritual energy. That's what gave the female ghost the chance to get her revenge. I sighed and was about to pull Lily away. But then Jessica in the crowd spotted me. She stormed up to me, her face contorted with rage, and raised her hand to slap me. Others quickly held her back. She's the one who killed my boyfriend. She's the one who brought the ghosts. Jessica stared at me with pure hatred. The people around her started to look at her strangely, as if she were crazy. I heard Jessica has been bullying Chloe constantly. She even put acid in Chloe's water bottle once. Luckily, Chloe found out. Holy crap, that's attempted murder. What can you do? They all have rich dads. Jessica shot a glare at the crowd, successfully silencing them. Chloe, don't think this means I'm scared enough to beg you. But the next second, another commotion erupted from downstairs. I stuck my head out to see what was happening. Stacy's boyfriend, Alex, was running frantically through the crowd, as if he'd seen a ghost. There's a ghost on me. Can't you see it? He looked terrified and deranged. The people around him just stared at him, bewildered, as if he were a lunatic. Only Jessica and Stacy's faces were deathly white. I leaned in close to their ears and whispered, "What do you think he's seeing?" Jessica shuddered violently. I could see a male ghost clinging to Alex's legs. The ghost was muttering, "Give me back my legs." The next moment, there was a horrifying bone-crunching sound. Alex let out a blood-curdling scream. Both of his legs had been snapped, seemingly out of thin air. The bones were even sticking out. Everyone was horrified by the gruesome scene. But Alex, despite the agony on his face that looked like he was about to pass out, actually reached down and tried to pull his own leg bones out. "Chloe, it wasn't enough for you to kill Kyle. Now you've killed Alex too. I'm going to kill you." Stacy charged at me like a madwoman. But she was quickly restrained. I looked at them coldly. The aura of death on Stacy and Jessica's faces was even thicker now. That night, Jessica actually managed to hire some exorcists. These men were dressed for the part, carrying all sorts of ritual tools. Jessica announced arrogantly, "Whoever can get rid of the ghost for me, I'll give them $1 million. Stacy chimed in, "I'll add another 500,000. Hearing this, the exorcist's eyes lit up. Jessica pointed at me. "She's the one who summoned those ghosts." I leisurely sipped my rice milk coffee, giving the exorcists a nonchalant glance. One of them walked up to me and looked me over with contempt. "Mississippi Jessica tells me you're the one doing business with ghosts? How ridiculous. The ghost trader profession died out 100 years ago. A woman who can be a ghost trader must have a body of extreme and powerful spiritual energy to even qualify. You look like nothing more than a little girl. I bet you've just used some dark arts to bully Mississippi Jessica and Mississippi Stacy, haven't you?" he said with a cold snort. I found it rather amusing and took a light sip of my coffee. "Then can you see the ghosts covering your eyes right now?" The exorcist's face changed. "Nonsense." But the next second, his face filled with terror. "Why can't I see? Why is it so dark?" I can't see anything. He frantically pulled out various yellow talismans, scattering them in every direction as if they were free. But he just couldn't see the ghost that was now sitting on his neck, cackling as it covered his eyes. At that moment, all the exorcists panicked. The dorm room window, which had been open, suddenly slammed shut. The temperature plummeted. You could see the white puff of breath from everyone in the room. These half-baked exorcists hastily pulled out all their ritual tools, but they just waved them around randomly, without any accuracy. I calmly cracked open a sunflower seed, watching the show unfold. Jessica and Stacy were huddled together, terrified, their faces as white as sheets. A woman's piercing cries echoed through the dorm room, one after another. Just then, Stacy let out a sharp scream. She was suddenly lifted into the air, as if someone had grabbed her by the hair and yanked her up. Stacy was so scared she burst into tears, begging the exorcists to save her. But right now, all the exorcists had their vision obscured by ghosts and were just spinning in place. Seeing this, Jessica was also scared stiff. "Jessica, help me." Jessica, who was usually as close as a sister to Stacy, was now cowering in a corner. She didn't dare go near Stacy. The force pulling Stacy's hair grew stronger, and she was lifted completely into the air. Her feet left the ground, and she dangled there, screaming in terror. Finally, Stacy's eyes landed on me, still cracking sunflower seeds. She looked as if she had just found her last hope. "Chloe, I was wrong, save me." I calmly spit out the sunflower seed shell in my mouth, and looked at the ghost that was grabbing her hair. This was also a female ghost. Her face was pale and ashen, and she looked vaguely familiar. Suddenly, I remembered seeing her picture on the school's online forum. The story was that Stacy had suspected this girl of seducing her boyfriend, and had made her life hell. She even killed the girl's dog, cooked it into a soup, and gave it to her to eat. She also maliciously photoshopped pictures and spread rumors that the girl was a prostitute. Finally, the girl couldn't take it anymore and in a state of mental breakdown, hanged herself. Looking at Stacy's pleading eyes, I said very calmly, "Vengeful spirits are seeking their due. The living should stay away. If you had sincerely admitted you were wrong before, I might have been able to save you. But now, the debts have come for their due. The protective flames around you have been extinguished, and the vengeful souls who didn't dare approach you before are now here to claim your life. Save me. You damn bitch. Save me." Stacy didn't seem to hear a word I was saying, and instead started cursing at me viciously. I sighed and shook my head. The next second, the window flew open. Stacy was dragged by an unseen force, half her body hanging out the window. She screamed in terror. "Jessica! Jessica, come and save me." Jessica was huddled in the corner, shaking like a leaf, too scared to move. Stacy didn't even last a minute before she was instantly pulled down. I heard the dull thud of a heavy object hitting the ground below. I walked to the window and saw Stacy lying in a pool of blood in a grotesque posture, her eyes bulging in terror, as if they were about to pop out of their sockets. Jessica, having witnessed Stacy's gruesome death firsthand, was so scared she wet her pants. Now she finally believed what I had said. She glanced at the exorcists, who were still being led around in circles by the ghosts, and then with a deathly pale face, she crawled towards me. "Chloe, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken the things from your stall. Please save me." Jessica clung to my leg, her face a mess of snot and tears. I looked at her coldly, unmoved. "I'll give you any amount of money you want. When I called you a broke ass, it was because I was jealous of you. I was jealous that you got better grades than me, and that you're prettier than me. I was even jealous that all the guys at school liked you. I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have bullied you. Please save me, I really don't want to die. I'll never do it again, I'll be a good person." Jessica wailed. I frowned and sighed lightly. Although Jessica was despicable, she was still a living person. I noticed that the two flames on her shoulders had already been extinguished by the ghosts. Countless pale, ghostly faces materialized around her, greedily eyeing the last flame on her forehead. "If you are sincere about atoning for your sins, I'll teach you a way. From now on, you must apologize and compensate everyone you have ever bullied. And tonight at midnight, prepare 10 times the amount of offerings and place them at the crossroads to compensate those spirits." When Jessica heard this, she nodded her head like a chicken pecking at rice. "I'll do it. As long as I can live, I'll do anything." My tone shifted. But there's one condition. You must not have any blood debts on your hands. Otherwise, even I can't save you. A flicker of guilt crossed Jessica's eyes, but she quickly nodded. After the exorcists left, the dorm returned to its usual quiet. Jessica was genuinely scared and did as I said, apologizing to everyone she had bullied and promising compensation. But none of her former victims were buying it. After all, the things Jessica had done in the past were truly vile. Jessica barely made it to midnight and went to the crossroads at the school entrance. I followed behind her. The night was terrifyingly silent. Jessica had prepared 10 times the amount of offerings, just as I had instructed. Is this enough? She asked, her voice trembling. I stared into her eyes. Are you sure you don't have blood on your hands, like they did? Jessica nodded quickly. I just like to bully people a little. I've never killed anyone. Seeing how certain she was, I forced open the gates of the underworld. As soon as the gates opened, countless ghostly white figures appeared. The offerings laid out on the ground began to disappear at an astonishing rate. Countless ghosts were scrambling for the offerings. Although Jessica couldn't see the ghosts, she could see the offerings steadily vanishing. She breathed a sigh of relief. Chloe, have they forgiven me? But I shook my head and pointed at Jessica's back. Clinging to her back were several infant spirits with terrifying faces. These infants were letting out ear-piercing cries. Are you sure you don't have any blood debts? Jessica's face froze. I saw the flame on her forehead go out. The next moment, the infant spirits' faces twisted into eerie smiles. They opened their mouths, their sharp teeth tearing at the flesh on Jessica's body. Jessica couldn't see them and screamed, Chloe. Something is biting me. A piece of flesh, skin and all, was ripped from Jessica's leg. The pain almost made Jessica pass out. Chloe, you liar. Didn't you say they forgave me? Jessica glared at me with pure venom. My face was icier than ever. They may have forgiven you, but you lied to me. You have more than one blood debt on your hands. These infant spirits. I suspect you killed them when they were alive. They've come to claim your life. Seeing the bloody, gory scene before me, I couldn't help but turn away. At first, Jessica could still curse at me, but her voice grew weaker and weaker. Eventually, there was no sound at all. I turned back around and saw Jessica's eyes wide open. Not a single piece of intact flesh left on her body. The ground was covered in shredded meat and blood, a truly horrifying sight. The infant spirits were suddenly enveloped in a golden light, and then they contentedly crawled towards the gates of the underworld. Finally, the gates slowly closed and disappeared from my sight. I sighed and shook my head, then returned to the school. 3 days later, I finally found out where the infant spirits that clung to Jessica came from. The police found the skeletons of 3 babies in Jessica's family garden. It turned out that Jessica had always been afraid that the children her stepmother gave birth to would steal her place in her father's heart. So every time, when her stepmother wasn't looking, she would secretly kill the child. I heard one of the babies died the most gruesome death. Jessica had deliberately thrown it to a pack of wild dogs. The other 2 children were also intentionally drowned by Jessica. Apparently, Jessica never let outsiders manage the garden, so not even her father suspected that his own daughter could be so cruel. The reason the police found the bodies was because Jessica's stepmother suddenly heard a baby crying in the garden and called the police. After this whole ordeal, Lily and I were moved to a new dorm. Our new roommates are friendly, and we get along very well. I'm also back to my busy routine, preparing goods for the next trade. After all, I have a reputation to maintain in the underworld. The end.